Hey friends, good evening. It is your flower farming friends, Lisa and Dave Dowling. Hey Dave.
Hi, Lisa. How you doing tonight?
I am good. And Dave, we don't hardly get together like this anymore. And
Not,
I miss
not
it.
enough.
So, I mean, first off, I almost always learn something new when we're talking. You know what I mean? Stuff
Yep.
comes out, whether it's new or I've just forgotten, I don't know. But tonight, we are here this tonight because Dave and I are running a super sweet deal on our Flower Farm and School online courses. And we wanted to kind of talk about who are these courses for? Why would anybody take them? And then we're going to kind of do a dive into what actually is in the courses.
Right.
Um, and so what we're talking about is my course is Flower Farm and School, the basics, annual crops, marketing, and more. And Dave, yours is?
Bulbs, perennials, woodies, and more.
Yes. So it's really kind of a big old snapshot of the flower farming business. So the special that we're offering this week is only good until Friday, which is, and I wrote the date down, October 20th of 23, because we get so many replays of this stuff that we didn't want we wanted to know when to ground that. So, something that we've learned, Dave and I have had online courses now for several years, and something that we have learned from our students, and, y'all may not know this, but we can see, the administrators can see how people use their courses. We can see what they've watched, what they haven't watched, how long they've watched. And something that we have really learned is that people do not want to sit down and watch and go to school. They don't want to sit down and just watch stuff. What we have really learned is they want what they need when they need it. They want an answer when they need it. And this really led us, this last 18 months, to kind of not evaluate our courses. We actually kind of we're reformatted them,
Format.
kind of. And it's kind of like I have to search for words sometimes, Dave, especially if it's not in the farming vocabulary, right? These are outside of the flower farming. Anyway, we have a new format to our courses. And friends, our courses are still the hardcore information that they've always been. And, that's the challenge on our courses is it's really information rich. And people need to be able to navigate that information so much easier. So we are really all about helping you. And so Dave and I'm going to talk more about the courses a little bit later. But I just want to say, Dave, before we hit this list of people that these are the people that take our courses, the type of people. I just want to say, and you can chime in on this, it is just absolutely crazy to try to reinvent the wheel when the
Yes.
wheel is already present and available because you waste so much time and money, right?
Yeah, you waste so much time. Unbelievable amount of time. It can be an entire season that you've lost because you did something wrong. You didn't know how to do something.
You know, not only do you lose time, we lose a lot of people that way. They kind of go in gun ho, and people that dive into flower farming, most of them are working super hard.
Mm-hmm.
They dive in and go for the gold, but when it just doesn't start clicking fairly quickly, I mean, within months, a little bit of success, right? It's really easy to get discouraged, and then bad things start happening. Then you think it doesn't work. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. Nobody can do this job and make money. It's so exhausting and so
They
forth
give
and
up,
so on.
and they give up before they try it and do everything right. They
Well,
make so many mistakes. They give up.
yeah, it's true because I still make mistakes every day, but now at least I do more things right than I do mistakes, and it kind of just floods out. So, Dave, what I want to talk about is first is who should take our courses. So Both of our schools are separate standalone courses. However, it seems a natural fit that people take my course, which is really about the foundations of business, the foundations of going from being a gardener to a farmer. And I mean, that just like hit me like a lightning bolt, Dave. Did it you? I mean, you just think it's getting a bigger garden, right? And it doesn't quite work that way.
No, it's all about planning and scheduling and planting constantly. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I always say selling is the most important part.
You know, Jenny Love and I just talked about that a couple weeks ago. I haven't even gotten to the list yet, but Jenny and I were doing a live, and I said that I feel like that people think the flowers are the most important part, but I, in fact, think the flowers are a third. And she totally agrees that flowers are even less than a third of the big flower farming business. And that is the cusp right there. That's the part everybody focuses on the flowers, spends all their wheels on the flowers. And then when it comes to the rest of it, they aren't ready, set, or aware. And it just gets very discouraging. So I'm going to say this list. This is a list of different things that people have told us. And we have thousands of students, y'all. And we hear the same reasons or the same spots people were in when they came to us. So, Flower Farm and School online courses are for you if, and then Dave and I are going to go back and talk about these, if you want to start a flower farm or you need help with an existing flower farm, or you feel confident about growing flowers but aren't sure about selling and the business part of things. It's for you if you're working hard but don't seem to be getting to the important things. That was so me. I mean, I want to raise my hand 10 times on that one. If you are overwhelmed and aren't sure what to do next, or you started a flower farm but you aren't making a profit. That is a really common one. You have customers but want to offer a wider variety of flowers. Because Dave, I'm sure you'll point out for this one, it is easier to sell more to the same customers than to get new customers, right? And then lastly, you don't know what the next step is to grow your business. And so these are some of the reasons that students have taken our courses. So Dave, let's just talk about the first one that's out of the gate for the person that might be watching this that says, I want to start a flower farm. Why would they benefit from starting off with my course, because my course is kind of the foundation part, right?
Yeah, for me, somebody who's never started a business yet and they're just starting at ground zero, first step, haven't grown anything yet, want to have a cut flower farm or cut flower business, your course spends several classes before you even talk about flowers. You talk about the business. And if you're going to be a flower farmer, you have to operate it as a business. So you cover the information on businesses about getting legal, taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff before you even talk about flowers. And I think that's a really important thing. A lot of people who might have started this as a hobby, I can grow flowers, let me try and sell some. They never really work on getting the business set up right. And that can help them not be successful because the business isn't set up right.
That is so true. And I want to say, if you see people posting the sunflower emoji in the comments, y'all, that is how our students give us shout outs. They identify themselves as part of the flower farm, of the Gardener's Workshop family. And we love it when y'all identify yourself. And I also want to say, we love it when our students share their experience with our courses. So reach out to them if you want. Dave, I'm going to follow up a phrase that I wrote at the very top of our notes here today. It says, and it's right on what you were just saying, if we treated flower farming more like a business and less like a hobby, I bet you we'd have so many more successful flower farmers.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's like any business. If you like to cook, you can't open a restaurant without knowing how to run the business end. It's the same thing with a flower farm. If you want to start growing flowers to sell them and make it a business, you got to know how to run the back end of the business, the nuts and bolts that makes it work.
And, it kind of came easier for me. I did an Instagram live last night and kind of told part of my beginning story that I hadn't ever really told before, kind of further back, what really got me started. And I feel like because I was a business manager of a big veterinary hospital, that helped me to address that part of the flower farming. My big learning curve was I was barely a gardener, right? So I did put that. That's the very first module in my course is about the business. And I really struggled with that because I was afraid people would buy it, come in and see that and think, oh my gosh, this is like no fun. Where's the flowers, right? But we have had praises over and over again from people that were terrified of the business part. They didn't know where to start, what to do. They kind of started, they knew they were kind of maybe illegal and they weren't really doing things right, but they didn't know where to start. I'm a believer in eat the ugly frog first. So I made the business the very first class.
Right.
Let's get it done, get it out of the way, and you cannot believe you'll be 6 inches taller after you finish that class. So I agree with that totally, Dave. So I think that the second part of that was those people that come to us that have been dabbling. I think the hobbyists and the dabblers torture themselves because they never go all in. And so they never really they can never turn the corner, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, although sometimes a hobby grower might want to only just be a hobby grower.
Right.
They're fine just growing a few flowers to, sell to the neighbors and that's it, or some coworkers. But if you're doing the hobby, you want to make it into a business, you got to cross your T's and dot your I's and do all the work to make it happen and make it happen in the correct sequence and the correct way.
And, for me personally, the minute I start spending money, it's like the fire's put under my butt, right? It's like, all right, now you got to get down to business and make this actually work. So that's the first group of people that should take this course is people that want to start a flower farm or needs help with an existing one. And so I see we've got more people joining us. And so we're here tonight talking about Flower Farming School Online, the basics with me, and then Dave's more advanced class, which takes you into bulbs, perennials, woodies, and more. And we have a great special bundle going on this week, y'all. So that's what it's all about. So the next person that these classes are really for is you feel confident about growing the flowers, but you aren't so sure about selling and the business part. Well, I think we kind of just talked about the business part, but Dave, I think that most of us, and that was also me, are really afraid to ask people for money for their flowers.
It's very difficult when you're just starting out if you don't know what the flowers should sell for. And if you're sometimes, I want to say a cheapskate, but you have a frugal personality, you have a hard time selling the flowers for what they're really worth and what you should be charging for them. And then that leads you to not making enough profit to stay in business. You might be in an area where the flowers aren't thought of, they're a high price luxury and nobody buys them. Just go to the next town over, drive an hour, and you'd be surprised you can sell them somewhere else for a higher price and make enough profit to stay in business.
It's so true. One of the things that I talked about last night was how, in my mind, 26 years ago, when I was thinking about flower farming, I wasn't much of I loved flowers, but I didn't partake in flowers. And local flowers weren't even a thing, right? So I was thinking that this is what my family would say to me. How many flowers could you sell, possibly? Because they're thinking how often they bought flowers.
Right.
And then my experience with my first florist who bought everything. And then when I discovered Colonial Williamsburg, who became a huge buyer for 15 years, they were great customers. But that was my testing ground to learn that the cut flower industry is so much bigger than we imagine. And so I think I read this over on Slow Flowers on Deborah Prenzine's website, that they're actually forecasting now. They say it's like there's 7 to 8 billion, y'all, with a B, 7 to 8 billion dollars a year in the United States alone sold in cut flowers. Right. Think about that for a minute. They are forecasting that in 2025, in 2 years, that number will be $12 billion a year. Our industry is steadily growing and growing. What does that say? There is a need, there is a want. You can't think, what can I sell down at the farmer's market? The farmer's markets are a spot. I have a friend that they do a huge business at farmers markets, but I'm just saying there is a much bigger picture here for people to actually imagine. Um, and I know that I was guilty of that in the beginning until we really got in it, right, Dave? I mean, you go to California and see what's happening.
Huge farms out there, hundreds of acres of flowers, and they sell them all. But it's really easy to get started in farmers markets, but there's so much
Yes.
more opportunity to sell,
Yes.
10 other ways.
That's a great point. And I sold at farmers markets for 14 years, so I'm not degrading them in any way, but I'm just saying the farmers markets are also have a line usually of flower farmers now to get in them. So there is other opportunities. Um, and so part of what we talk about in my course, as well as Dave drops little golden nuggets throughout his course about selling flowers, is to talk about some of those other options. And once you equip yourself as a professional, meaning you're prepared, you price fairly, you know where to go, you know how, you don't go in there in your flip flops and your dirty t shirt. You go in there, neat, tidy. And these are all things I talk about in my course, y'all. I'm like such a stickler for being a pro because you're going in professional businesses, right? And you want those people to pay you money. So, all right. So, if you need help with selling and business, definitely the courses are there for you. So, Dave, this one is you're working hard, but don't seem to be getting to the important things. So, how do they know what the important things are?
Well, a big important thing is just your scheduling and planting, your succession planting, because you can't go out and work your butt off planting stuff in April and May, and then you're going to wonder where are all my flowers in August because you didn't keep planting. So that's an important thing to keep planting. You can't do it just once. It's not like planting your annuals around your front porch. They're going to be good all summer. You're picking these and selling them. You need to plant new ones throughout the season so you keep having flowers. Planning ahead for future seasons. My number one perennial is a peony. Everyone should be planting peonies in your first year you're growing because it's going to take 2 or 3 years before you really start to get production out of them. But then once you start getting production out of those peonies, you're going to be making money off of those every summer forever. They don't go away.
Right.
But it's something that I know so many people that waited till year 3, 4, 5, or 6 before they bought their first peony. And they've lost all that income potential and they'll never get it back. So those, behind the 8 ball, so to speak.
And you know that I was gifted an enormous population of peonies, family peonies, that produce 1,000 stems a year. This incredible long bed that I have, right? I can't even tell you what would we use for focal flowers in the month of May if I didn't have those peonies. I mean, their value is pretty crazy, And so part of what is a natural happening when you learn from us is you begin to learn what are the important things. Top billing is you have to succession plan. It's not doing all this other stuff. And then, little rabbit hole. One of the exercises in my first class is like, what are you doing all day? And I can remember when I did that and I had a business coach who gave me all these exercises, right? And I can remember thinking, oh my gosh, I am not even going to do this. This is so crazy. How could that even help? Friends, so I didn't do it. Then I sat through the next session with the other 8 big business owners that I was sitting there with who all did it. And it changed my mind completely. You don't know how much mess you're doing every day because we're self-employed, friends. We're at home or we're at our office. We're in control. We can come and go. We can do what we want. There's nobody that we're reporting to. So figuring out what's important to do. You have time to do it because guess what? I have the same 8 hours in a day as Dave has in a day, as you have in a day. It's what you're doing, prioritizing and getting down to the bacon, right? I mean, that's what I'm all about. All right, Dave. The next one is you're overwhelmed and you aren't sure what to do next.
Yeah, when you're overwhelmed, you got to work on your time management. You spend too much time on the things that don't matter. I think one example we always give was where you've got this row of whatever flower it is, whether it's ageratum, zinnias, and you're going out and you have to struggle to find flowers because it's, they're starting to wane and not be as good. Don't waste your time an hour trying to find a bucket of zinnias in a row of flowers that are basically finished. Go to
Right.
a new row that you can pick a bucket of flowers in 5 minutes. It's prioritize your time to the most productive task.
Dave, I will confess to this completely. Probably until the last maybe, so I've been farming since 1998. Dave and I both kind of came in about the same time. Um, and I used to nurse beds longer than I should have.
Mm-hmm.
And just in the last few years, Bobo and I have decided that it is definitely less work with more reward. By the first time you have to pause at a bed of where you're cutting next, that's when that bed should end. And
Right.
you should have transplants ready to go right in that bed as
Your
soon
next
as it's
succession
torn
planning.
out.
Your
And
next
I'm
succession planning should be right there, ready to go. Move
and
on.
that's how you can farm on a spot this big and produce a ton of flowers,
Yes.
by making the best use of your time. And that's something that I feel like we do a really good job of, in the courses, really helping people do it. And so here's another one. They started a flower farm, but they still aren't making a profit. Man, that can be a lot of things, can it? It can
Yeah.
be,
All kinds of, but real quick, I want to go back to the last subject real quick. How many times have you had yourself or somebody weed a bed? It's
oh,
been more expense weeding that bed than the value of the crop that's still
yes,
coming out of it.
yes.
Sometimes the weed gets so bad, just mow it down and start over.
And you have to, that is just so true, Dave. And how many times, I mean, I'll say to Bobo, I'm going to get the mower. She said, "Oh my gosh, what are you taking out?" You know, because yes, and it takes years, and it won't have to take you years when you hear from people that have done it both ways. And
Right.
the bottom line coming out of having more beds freshly planted and coming along succession planting,
Yeah.
right, is the real key.
Yeah. So
And
back to that, you're working your butt off, you're not making any money. Either you're not selling at a high enough price,
right,
you're selling too cheap, or you're not selling enough. By not selling enough, I mean you didn't plant enough, so you can't make as much money as you want to make. You don't have the flowers, you don't have the product. So I always like to say, plant more than you think you can sell, then work a little harder to sell it.
that is so very, very true, David. And we do. I say that to people all the time. I said, I always start about 30 to 50% more seeds
Mm-hmm.
than the plants that I need for transplants. And I said, and then when you have Dave Dowling sitting right here on your shoulder, whispering in your ear, plant them, plant them all, and then sell them all. Um, you know, Dave, I feel like people that aren't making a profit are a few things. It's a lot of times the way that they're looking at their flowers, they aren't priced appropriately. That's why you have to lock arms with other people in the industry to learn from them, stalk them. I mean, whatever you have to do to find out and that's one of the things we do share resources where you can go to get pricing from other places. No one place is going to be your guide, right? It's so many variables. There's no one size fits all, but we can give you some jumping off points by some of the resources where you start. But I think that's a really big one. Not selling enough, not growing enough, and then inappropriate pricing for sure.
Right. And then also, I had something pop in my head and I forgot it real quick, but something else, but just, yeah, I don't remember now, but
That's all right.
it'll come up later.
It'll come back up. Just butt in and knock me out the way. You'll do it. So, Dave, now this is really, so my course, the basics, is really about, getting your business up and running, how to build a working cutting garden, which is so different than a giant home garden, right? What to grow, how to grow it, how to harvest it, and how to start seeds. Your course is actually like the building block. Once people have gotten their feet kind of a little wet and they're starting to grow and they're getting the hang of this, then they should waltz right into your course and say, what else am I going to grow to be able to sell more to the same people, right?
Right. Because my class is the step beyond yours. We're adding all the perennials and bulb crops and woody crops that you don't even touch in your class because you're dealing just with annuals basically.
Yes. Low investment, potential high return. You know, why learn your mistakes on tulips and ranunculus and
Exactly.
I did it. I can remember, Dave, I had crates and crates of tulips and hyacinths and so many, and I so totally screwed it up. And it cost a lot of money, you
Yeah.
know? And it was really, really disappointing. So Dave, your class is going to take them into bulbs, which he's going to run through what's in his course here in a moment. But, you know, you don't just tell them what to grow. You tell them how to grow it, when to harvest it, just that whole piece of pie that most of us are missing, right?
Right. And I also like to say that in my class, there's so many different crops. The worst thing you do is try and start them all the first year you take my class, because then you're going to have nothing but a big field of weeds and problems.
Yeah.
Just pick 4 or 5 that you want to grow and then add 4 or 5 more every year until you get set to what you're going to grow.
I think that's just so very, very wise. And so the last one we have here is they don't know what the next step is to grow their business. And I think that can be as wide as the field is, you know? I mean, it just,
It also depends how big they want their business to be. Do they want to be a business that has 6 or 7 employees selling year round, or just selling a whole lot during the season?
right.
Or do they want to keep it more of a family thing? Just mom and the husband works part time the weekends, and the little 6, 8 year old kids come out and help. It all depends on what you want to do. But as far as going from zero to a big business with 6 or 7 employees growing literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of flowers, you can do that if you want to do it.
And, you know, Dave, I think that perhaps the best advice, I was forced to follow this pattern because of my circumstances, is to start small. I grew on a quarter acre. The first year, I actually had 2 quarter acre gardens, but one of them really wasn't all mine. I was still kind of elbowing my way past the vegetables to get the vegetables out of there. But you can produce an enormous amount of flowers on a quarter acre. And to really get your feet wet and to get in to grow your business and to slowly add and get customers and learn how am I going to set prices, and maybe who are some of the other growers that you can connect with. And you don't want to step on other people's feet. I am just so amazed. We have 2 students. I mean, we have many students that you all may be familiar with, but we have 2 that have pretty public faces. And I just remember it's Daniel Shavy of Petal Pickers and Nicole Pitt of Flower Hill Farm in New York. Both of them were both of our students. And I just remember, Dave, we interviewed them a couple of years ago. And one of the things that Daniel just kept bringing back is that I just didn't know what to do. There's not time. You don't have time to do everything you know how to do. All the things that you don't know how to do, you don't have time to figure that out. I mean, he just kept saying, I just didn't know what to do next, and how to do it. And growing your business organically. I mean, I see what he has done with his business. How many years has that been? Is it 6 years? He had been flower farming, I think, for 2 years.
I think he's only been growing for about 6 years now, and it's amazing what he does.
It
how much
is,
stuff he grows, how much stuff he sells. He ships flowers across the country. It's amazing.
yeah. I mean, if you don't follow Petal Pickers, you really should, to kind of follow along with him. But Daniel, I mean, if you want to get down to business, that's the people that take courses. I mean, I took 2 courses last week, business courses. I am constantly, because it's like, why? There's so much information on the internet. Who do you listen to? How long do you spend sifting and roaming through the stuff that's on there? And I'm already getting off my little script here. Sorry, y'all. So, and then Nicole has launched her flower farm into. Tell us what Nicole's doing. I mean,
Well, she started out doing cut flowers, and she was actually a TV news reporter, on the street,
yes,
live camera shot TV reporter. Started a cut flower farm, and then not even 2 years ago, she bought the old rundown nursery in her hometown, and has rebuilt the greenhouses, rebuilt the retail store, and now has a plant nursery that's open. I don't know if it's open all all week or just on the week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But she's got a booming business now selling plants
And flowers. She still
and the
sells
flowers.
flowers.
Sells the flowers at the store too. I mean, it's just amazing what she's done because she works her butt off. She works really hard, but she's always plans ahead and thinks about what she's doing. And I don't think she's making many mistakes doing what she's doing. She took our classes, which helped her a lot with the growing of the cut flowers. But the
Yes.
nursery thing, I think she's doing by the seat of her pants, and she's got a lot of common sense and knows what she's doing. But yeah, I wish they were closer. She's like an 8-hour driver. I would stop in some Saturday and surprise her.
Yeah, I the last time I talked to her, I did a podcast with her, and it's actually podcast episode number 241. If you want to revisit, that was just a great talk with her. I told her, I said, Nicole, do not be surprised someday if Dave and I just pop in up there, because I mean, it's just having a strong foundation. I mean, that's what this is. Dave and I are very transparent. We are pretty real about what we're doing. Between us, we have about 50 years of cut flower growing experiences, about 50 years of mistakes, backups, do it again, figure it out, and just constantly doing it. And that is just what it really is all about. And that's what's in our courses. Our courses are just jam packed with information. And if you want to get into flower farming, you want to reorganize and get one you've already started into better running shape, or if you want to expand your business, this is what it's all about. And I think that Daniel and Nicole are really great examples of getting the confidence to have the business foundation, and then to get the basics of flower farming and what to grow, and then more stuff has given them just a rocket launching pad, right?
Gone from zero to way up in the stratosphere.
Yeah. So flower farming can be, as Dave mentioned earlier, you can sell bouquets at your job, or you can make this a full. I mean, we have several friends that this is their family's livelihood. That doesn't happen overnight, but where does it all start? With a strong foundation. And so getting the steps in this course. So I want to first read a comment from Brenda Green. You guys are the bomb, but in my small town, it doesn't seem like people want to spend the money on flowers. And I put them from $20 to $18. Even small jars of 10 zinnias to only $8, very depressed. So first off, I would say, Brenda, my first inclination is, like what Dave mentioned earlier, I found that I actually made more money selling wholesale to florists than I did perhaps selling at some farmers markets. We had some that were more upscale, but that would be my 2 cents worth, is to pursue perhaps what are the commercial opportunities for you to even sell to a supermarket or to a small, especially privately owned supermarkets. What do you say, Dave?
Well, I was also going to say, sometimes if you're in a smaller community like that, if you can get the community to like you, I know that sounds strange, but they're buying the flowers from you because it's you, and they'll pay more for it. I have somebody in south of Boston, that what she charges for her flowers, sometimes I'm just floored what she charges, but literally dozens and dozens or 100 people come out to her farm to pick flowers because they're supporting her and her business. So she's I don't want to say a pillar in the community, but everyone in the community knows her and wants to support her and have her do well.
Right. And that is one of the things that we do talk about in my course, is how to connect with people on social media. Y'all, that's what it is. What is everybody walking around doing? Looking at this wonderful, this device is what you make it.
Yes.
And social media is how you connect. And we have such stories to tell. People dream of doing what we're doing, and you can really use that tool to do exactly what Dave is talking about. And that's yet another business model, you picks. And there's just so many great opportunities. So Dave, I want to just take a moment, and I'm gonna try, y'all, to share my screen and bring up just our page. So let me just say this first. So we're running a special for this week only. We haven't done this actual special for 2 years, this deep of a discount. You can buy both of our courses for $995. That's about $150 savings as buying them at other times. Whenever you buy any of our courses, you become a member of our family. So if you've already bought a course, that means that you would get $50 off of any of our schools. So this discount is even a little bit richer for people that already own some of our other courses. You get a deeper discount. And I want to tell you what's in those courses, but I want to say this first. Dave, I think you'll probably back me up on this. I'm going to say that beyond a shadow of a doubt, if people even applied 10% of what is available to them in our courses, even less than 10%, you are going to save or make exceeding $1,000.
Yes. Well, even if they do one crop out of your class and do it right, they'll make back that money right away.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's talk sunflowers.
You bought your tractor with sunflowers in 1 year.
Yep. That's a $30,000 tractor, y'all.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen, y'all, and bring this up, and we can just keep on talking. And all right. Add to stage. All right, y'all. So, but I don't think I know how to scroll it is the problem. Okay. So you can find both of our courses over at thegardenersworkshop.com. I'm sure that Jesse is going to post a link in here. And if you're watching the replay, you have to actually go to the live show links to actually find those. But what I just wanted to bring the page up. And the problem is that I cannot figure out, y'all. This is technology. I have a touch screen that won't work. The regular little thing over here, it will not let me scroll. So I do not know what that glitch is, but I'm going to let you look at that while I just kind of give you the rundown. First off, this is a really long page on our website. For those people that would love deep dives, you can go on here. There's videos you can watch of me talking about different things about the course, as well as student testimonials. And it lists, all kinds of stuff about things that, that I've done or Dave has done. And it also has a great video of Jonalyn talking about her business, how she's another one, Dave, that has just built a phenomenal business. You have what it takes in these courses. It's what you actually do to it. So there's the thing that I mentioned earlier when we were talking is what we've done with our courses is we've spent the last 18 months having them keyword time stamped. What that means is that you can go into our course and you can use an app. We have an app. You can actually use it on your phone. Go in there and keyword search whatever the problem you're facing, and all the places that is in the course comes up so you can find it. And that was a really big project for us, but we really learned that people use these courses not as school, but as a reference tool. And I think when more people realize that for the cost of the courses, they're $595 separately each normally, and you have unlimited lifetime access. That means that next week you have it. That means that 6 months from now you can look it up. That means a year or 2 years from now, even as your business is changing. So in my course, which has over 54 video sessions, 34 bonus sessions, and 40 handouts that are printable handouts. So I'm just going to tell you what the name of the different classes are. There's 6. Each of the 6 classes has multiples of those things that I just read to you spread out. And you can go to the page and actually look and see a list of every topic that I talk about. Class 1 is starting and sustaining a business. Class 2 is building and managing the working garden. Class 3 is selling what you grow. That's like packed full of ideas for you to find how you can sell. Class 4 is what you're going to grow. Class 5 is starting seeds, and that does now include a tutorial on using the Swift commercial soil blocker. And Class 6 is harvesting and conditioning cut flowers. But there's more, y'all. I mean, do I sound like an infomercial? I mean, but it's so true. And it's because people, we just don't realize. I spent last night, I bought this class, and it was a short course, short business course. And it was like I couldn't find where the documents were to download and print. And sometimes it's frustrating. And that's why I like to just run through the highlights so you know that you just have to keep looking like I did last night. And I found what I was looking for in that course. So some of the bonuses that are included with my course, all of these you have lifetime unlimited access to. There is a bonus called the Cool Flowers Field Growers Report. And y'all, this is an interactive report where you can go in and search what other growers, and you also can participate and post in this report what your experience has been with specific cool season hardy annuals. And, you know, hey, I live in zone 6, and guess what? They said you couldn't fall plant XYZ, but I did, and it did great outside. So it gives you a glimmer of hope, right? So you have access to that. You also have access to my private community. It's a Facebook group where I check in and out of, and that's the place. Dave has one also. That's the place where if our courses do not answer your question, or the thousands of frequently asked questions, which again are all time stamped and keyword searchable, if your question's not answered, that community is where you can reach us to ask that question. And then another thing in my course is we provide our students, because most of the people that are in my course are just coming into the streamline of flower farming, right? They often don't have images to use on social media like we were talking about, on their website, or in even emails. We provide a gallery of over 200 high quality images that you can use until you get your own images, right? This is what you can do during this winter to spark interest from people, that what you're doing and what you're planning on doing. So you get that. And then I already mentioned the bonus videos. So Dave, why don't we, so let's see how I can stop sharing. And I think you can share your page, and we'll see if you can scroll. Dave might be a little smarter than I am on technology. And so you can find all of this information over at thegardenersworkshop.com. But the special offer that we're offering this week for both of our courses for $1,000, y'all. And you know, if you need a payment plan, PayPal, which is one of our subscribers to our checkout process, has that you can take, that you can do that way if that's something you need to do. All right, Dave, what's happening?
Did you need to let me share it to you, I think? There you go.
Oh, Jesse did that. I didn't.
You did it. Okay.
Hallelujah for the young people. All right. So tell us about your course, Dave.
There's the homepage for my class on thegardenersworkshop.com. And like Lisa said, it's a really long page with lots of information, videos, reviews from students. But I'm going to go back up here to the top, and you can view the course content, and it brings up a list of the each class, what's included in that class. And like class 1 is about bulbs, and go through lilies, which are a kind of expensive crop to grow. So you want to make sure you grow them correctly. And if you're going to grow them, you want to make sure you have a way to sell them. But if you can grow them and sell lilies, it can be very profitable. Tulips, narcissus or daffodils, allium, all things you plant in the fall, along with hyacinths. So if you were to buy this class this week, you still have time to order these bulbs, plant them this fall, and have these flowers next spring. Liatris is something you plant in the spring. Iris is in the fall, but then tuberose, gladiolus, acidanthera, and crocosmi are all planted in the spring. Some of those are perennial, depending where you're at. Whichever crop that I have in the class, it tells what zone it's good for, because we're talking perennials, unlike Lisa's class, which is all annuals. So on mine, so if you were to look up gladiolus, it tells you it's like a zone 7 and warmer if you want it to overwinter, or you can dig them and store them and replant them. So it has the hardiness zone for each crop. And then the following class is also more bulbs because there's so many different bulbs you can grow for cut flowers. Um, some of these are best if you have a heated greenhouse, and I tell you that in the class. So it's like freesia is not a crop to grow out in the field because by the time you can plant it in the spring, it's not going to bloom before it gets too hot to bloom. So that one goes in a heated but cool greenhouse. Ornithoglum is the same way. Anemones, ranunculus, both of those can be grown in a unheated tunnel if your zone's 5B or warmer. If you're colder than that, you can just plant them in really late winter when it's still cold outside. Muscari, amaryllis, and paper whites. You can do those both as a cut flower or as a potted plant. Dahlias, which is the big crop everyone's harvesting right now. We're again in mid-October today. I think it's October 17th. Some farmers farther north have already had their frost and the dahlias are done. But if you haven't had frost yet, some farmers can be making $1,000 a week off their dahlia crop. So if they get an extra 2 weeks of production because if you have a late frost, that can really make a difference in your pocketbook or your checkbook at the end of the season. Then I go over callas and then minor bulbs, some other obscure bulbs that might not grow many of, like lily of the valley and things like that. And then the class 3 start with the perennials. And again, always my number one perennial is peony. You definitely want to get peonies planted on your farm as soon as possible. And then Baptisia, Monarda, Agastache, Astilbe, a long list here. All perennials that are all good cut flowers. And the other thing I tell you in the class is what varieties to grow. Because if there's one here, Monarda or Bee Balm, there's some great new varieties coming out from the plant breeding world, but they're 8 to 12 inches tall, which is not what you want for a cut flower. So whenever you go on a perennial, you got to make sure you're getting a tall variety. And I list many of the varieties in here that would be the ones that you'd want to grow. And then class 4 is more perennials. Another, I don't know, what is that, another 15 of them or so. And then class 5, we talk about woody plants. One thing to remember when you're growing your cut flowers is a lot of what you're going to sell or use is not necessarily a flower with a bloom on it. It's greens, whether it's coming from a woody plant or a green that's just like a mountain mint perennial or the Baptisia foliage. It's not really a flower, but just filler. So we go through all the different woody plants here, talk about whether it blooms on new wood or old wood. Some hydrangeas bloom every year no matter what. Some bloom on old wood, so you don't always have a good crop if you have a late freeze. Talks about when to prune them and how to prune them. Because anytime you have a woody, if you don't maintain it, you end up often with a shrub that's too big and gangly, or sometimes even a tree. If you're growing curly willow, it's going to be a 50-foot tall tree if you don't keep it pruned down. And then for the last class, we talked briefly about different structures and more, which is structures which would be high tunnels, greenhouses, and shade structures. Because if you live in a field or a farm that has all open fields with no shade, you can put up a shade structure, which is a shade cloth on post, and grow shade-loving polygonatum for greens and astilbe and different shade-loving plants that you can grow under shade cloth. So we talk about that. And then we also, one thing that we talk about, a couple of things, is a cool bot, which is a way to make your own cooler. Because a lot of the crops that I talk about, you definitely want to have a cooler. You never want to grow tulips or lilies unless you have a cooler to put them in. Because when they're ready to pick, you got to pick them or they're going to bloom out and go bad. So you're going to be able to pick them and put them in a cooler on a daily basis. They also talk about brokers explained. It can be really confusing sometimes when you're trying to figure out where to buy your plants, whether you're buying plugs and liners, which are baby plants, or bulbs. I kind of explain the difference from some of the different companies that are brokers who don't really grow anything, but they sell for lots of other growers, where there's some growers that will sell direct to you. So I explained that in the last session of the last class that's called Brokers Explained. So all that's in there, lots of information to grow more crops on your farm that will allow you to sell more items to the same customers you already have. So if you were selling $50,000 a year of annuals, you add some of these perennials and woodies on here, and now the same customers you've been selling to, which would be florists or at a farmer's market, now instead of selling $50,000 a year, now you're selling $60,000 or $70,000 because you have more options for them to buy. It's no different than an ice cream store. If all this was chocolate and vanilla, they're not going to sell much. But you throw in all those other flavors, different plants, different varieties, you're going to sell more ice cream or more flowers to the same customers. So.
Yep. Dave, and I want to say here that, so Dave's course is literally set up like an encyclopedia. And that's what stimulated us. We knew how people used his class. People, they use the phrase that says, I have Dave in my back pocket. And what they're talking about is they have the phone app for all of our courses, and they can just pull up Dave's course, go straight to the tulips, and to be reminded of how do I plant that, or when do I cut that, or whatever that happens to be.
I've had people tell me that they've been out in the field getting ready to plant a perennial, and they look it up on the app out in the middle of the field and say, okay, what spacing, how deep, how do I plant these?
And so Dave's class is so easy to maneuver around inside because it's pretty cut and dry, right? You go to tulips, you go to lilies. Dave, I want to say that there is no question that, I mean, I feel totally confident saying that we give people all the steps and all the resources and even ideas in our courses, right? But people have to do the work.
Right.
You know, you have to start, you have to jump. And I also want to say, particularly for those people just starting out, purchasing courses like this is a business expense, y'all.
It's on your tax form.
Yeah, you take it as, I mean, a loss. And
not a loss, an expense. It's not a loss, it's an investment.
Right, it's an investment. You're right. So what I was going to say, if you don't make any money this year, it does count, you know. Right. You need to talk to your CPA about it. But, I mean, any business is constantly evolving. And
I also want to say, every farm in 5 or 10 years is not the same as it was 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah. You change your selling methods, you change some of your crops, you change how big you're going to be. I know farms have gotten big and said, this is too big for me, and then they backed off and reduced their size. So every farm is going to evolve every year. Nothing's going to stay static and get to a certain point and stay right there. You're always going to be changing and tweaking your business every year, no matter what.
And I did just also want to add that another little part of the special that we're offering this week that's not really written anywhere, but you'll see it when you're checking out. If you purchase this bundle special, which is $995, a little box I think is going to pop up and say, we are going to offer to you to pre-sell Steve and Gretel Adams growing cut flowers in hoop and greenhouses. And it's going to be $100 off the regular price, which we've never done that. And that class doesn't become available until mid-November. That's when it launches. You'll get a week earlier access to it. So I just wanted to give people a heads up that you might want to investigate a little bit because you want to talk about a slam-packed course of experience, what to grow, when to grow it, how to grow it, what to do about pests. Right, Dave? I mean, Steve and Gretel are amazing.
I just scratched the surface of growing in tunnels and greenhouses in my class. If you really want to do it and grow, either extend your season really long, much earlier in the spring and much later in the fall, or go to year round. Steve and Gretel's class is a must take. You would need to take it.
So the last time that I spoke to them, and I'm actually interviewing her tomorrow for a podcast, the last time I spoke to them, she thought they had 17. On the podcast, Steve said, no, Gretel, we have 18. We bought another one, remember? So these people, so I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. And I will say that, one of our students that has all of our courses that always frequents a lot of these lives is Wanda of Fox Hollow Peonies in Alaska. Yes. And we just appreciate her so much. She always pops on and says things like, remember, this is a business expense. And remember that every one of these courses is another tool in your toolbox. And she was very quick to point out that in Steve and Gretel's course, that so much of that information applies whether you have houses or not. Right. Their succession planting and their pest management, how they monitor, and it's really, really incredible. So basically, you can get all 3 of the flower farming schools for $1,500. And that is less. And friends, I have no trouble saying this. I've gotten pretty brave about it. There is no question that these courses should be 3 times as much as we charge. for them. When you base it on the amount of content
Right.
that's actually in them. But we wanted this to be really accessible to people. And that's what really drew Steve and Gretel to us, to doing this, is that it wasn't going to be thousands of dollars, because, well, as we said earlier, hands down, Dave, right? They're going to save or make a whole lot more money because of these courses.
Yeah.
So friends, we'd love to help you. And if anybody has any questions about the courses, we would be happy to actually, so let's see how I do this here. I think I can hit this exit full screen. Stand by, y'all. There we are. We're back to where we can see. So let's see, here's one. Let's bring this one up. Somebody's got a lot of sunflowers. Virginia, both classes are awesome, totally worth the money, enjoying the cloudy weather today, 62 degrees outside today in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon. Yeah, it's pretty dreamy here too. It's just chilly enough. It's like perfect cool flower weather. And Virginia, thank you so much for giving us a shout out. We love it when our students kind of give us moments, right? All right. So Nicole says, love Wanda. Yeah, Wanda is a really big supporter of our courses. And guess why? She's a teacher. She is a retired teacher. And, you know, there's a lot of great information out there, but a lot of it is just a lot of entertainment also. And we just really wanted to provide what people need to actually do the job. So, all right, friends, unless you have something else to add, Dave, I'd say let's let people go eat dinner like me. And so again, friends, this bundle special is available until Friday evening. It's $995. That is $150 off of buying them separately. Feel totally confident that you will gain so much experience and knowledge through those courses. And last but not least, we have a 7-day money back, no questions asked refund. So there's really no risk to you. But I also want to just remind everybody that we see these courses as tools to use for the life of your business, not a sit down and try to watch it and then it gets put on the digital shelf and gets dusty. These are courses that you interact with and use throughout your business. And there's also on a page at the top of if you just go to thegardenersworkshop.com, right at the top of the home page, it says, you know, the special deal. If you hit that, that'll take you to the page. There's a comparison chart that shows both mine and Dave's course. And you can also, on that page, grab a sneak peek into each one of our courses. It's one session from Dave's course and one session from mine. So you can get a feel for what the courses are about. But these are really learning lessons, right, Dave?
Yeah, I don't think anybody who takes the class would want to give it back because they're already using it.
So, all right, friends, until we meet again, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us. So what night? We're going live again, aren't we, Dave?
On what's today? Well, we are. It's on my calendar.
Friday on Instagram.
Friday, 6 o'clock Friday evening.
Yeah. So, but I'll be going live probably every day on different platforms, just, you know, showing people what this is all about, because that's the problem. You know, folks, you know, it's just so hard to know what to do. So I'll be seeing you guys on Instagram on Friday for sure with Dave. And then I'm sure y'all will be seeing me around and about. And so Dave, thanks so much for taking time and coming on and sharing some more wisdom with everybody. And, you know, maybe I can get Daniel to come on. I think Nicole's overwhelmed with pansies and mums right now.
Busy.
Yeah.
And the Daniel, I think, is probably taking dahlias by now or soon to. No, he's still picking them.
He's picking dahlias. Yep. So, all right, friends, until we meet again, and don't hesitate to reach out to the Gardener's Workshop if you have questions. But we'd love to see you on the inside of our communities that go along with our courses. All right. All right, Dave.
Thanks. Bye bye,
Thank
everybody.
Ciao.